People need an income that's guaranteed to them.
If you lose money to taxes, you're never getting that money back.
You need to get serious about adding some lower risk.
Greed. I don't like greed.
The thing to be afraid of, honestly, is the thing that we're not thinking of, the black swan event.
There's a tsunami coming. Bye.
Welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Just coffee talk.
There's a lot of noise, a lot of chatter. Who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? You have to stay focused.
A fun and informative look at the issues of wealth, retirement, and protecting your life savings.
These advisors out there that were trained to sell, and have all these fees. They don't want to talk about this product, so they make less money.
And now, Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Hello again, and welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. My name is Randy Cook, and we sit down here each week and talk through some of the things and maybe the questions and the concerns and all that you have about retirement. We see that market go up and down. We see our 401ks go up and down. We wonder if we have enough money for retirement. And what do we do once we get there? Well, that's what this show is all about. And the person who guides us through is Charisse Rivers of Zinnia Wealth. How are you doing today?
Oh, doing dandy. The weather is beautiful and enjoying the week.
You have been very busy lately. So.
It's been a busy season. Let's put it that way. I'm going to tell you the taxes and all the tax questions that people are bringing in. And should I or shouldn't I roll an IRA to a Roth? And why doesn't my neighbor do it? But you're thinking I should, Charisse. Like, there's just a lot of people who are now more than ever. You know, there's fear. Fear is a factor out there, right? Hey, by the way, I was on Fear Factor when I was in college, so maybe we should use fear as a factor today on this show, Randy.
Maybe so.
But the fear of running out of money, people, that's always been a fear for people. But then there's fear of taxes going up and debt rising and all those types of things. So I would say the last couple of weeks, the big question on the table is taxes and what should I be doing? And am I missing anything along the way here, Charisse?
Yep. They sent out all the W-2s here at work. So you've got that in your hand now. And you probably got your tax software and you're wondering, am I going to get a refund? Am I going to have to pay this year? And you're probably messing with that a little bit. Well, taxes in retirement are different than taxes in your working years. We're going to talk about that in the show today and give you a little guidance along that way as well. But one of the things we're going to start with today is we always get a lot of calls on the show. People have a huge appetite for information about 401ks. And many of us have a 401k, and we wonder, is this going to be enough to get us through retirement if I just put a whole bunch of money in a 401k? Well, a 401k plan is kind of a misnomer. That's not really a financial plan. It's just a piece of a financial plan. And the reason why is your 401k is a place to put money, but it doesn't kick off income. It doesn't give you a paycheck like a pension. So people are starting to do things about that. This is very interesting. The people at IBM have come up with an interesting idea. This is John Reckenthaler. He's from Morningstar, and he's explaining what IBM is doing.
What IBM has done is instead of matching, I think they had a 6% match or something like that of the salary that would go into a 401k. Instead, they drop that money into this separate pool, this retirement benefit account that earns a guaranteed rate of return. The current rate of return on that for the next couple of years is set at 6%. But it'll be something like the rate of cash plus a little bit more. And that's something that IBM automatically does for the employee.
And there it is, your 401k kicks off income like a pension. So they've kind of solved that problem. So, Charisse, you like the idea? I think it's kind of neat.
Well, are they actually saying like it's going to be a pension guaranteed income for life once they retire? Or are they just saying, hey, we're going to give you a fixed bucket where you can put your money so you don't have to worry about the roller coaster ride?
Boy, that's a great point because, you know, with an annuity, it doesn't run out, which is basically what they're doing here. But it sounds like they're putting it in a bucket and it literally can run out once that money is gone. So that's a great distinction there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just kind of kicked in my thoughts on that because I love, I'll be honest with you, 6% fixed, guaranteed for 30 years is great, right? But the only thing I would question is, so they're going to give you 6% guaranteed, and we don't know for how long. That's one thing I don't understand. But when they do retire, it sounds like they still have to be their own pension manager. They still have to figure out what buckets to live off of. It's just that happened to be the safe bucket, basically the bond bucket. and that money still can run out. So we still have that issue of worrying about money running out because it doesn't sound like it's a true pension. They're just giving you a nice fixed, it might be a fixed annuity. It just might be a fixed stable fund giving you a guaranteed rate. So I do like it. I think for people who are getting closer to retirement, that's an amazing idea. But I mean, if we go back into time, we go back to 1978, this is when the 401k was created. And what happened is companies didn't want the liability of paying you this guaranteed income for life. They still had a fixed bucket, believe it or not, even back then. You could get 3 and 4 and 5% fixed. So actually, what they're doing now, they did back in 1980s, by the way, come to think of it, now that we're talking through this. And so they're just bringing it back. They're giving you a higher fixed bucket return. And just like in the 80s, if you didn't get the pension, well, you saved, you contributed, and you have this defined benefit contribution plan, right? And then when you retire, maybe you had 60% at risk and 40% in this fixed bucket or your bond bucket. And then now you retire. Now what do? How do you live on that income? And how do you make sure you don't run out of it? So we still are in that dilemma where we don't have a guaranteed income stream for life, like the good old pensions, I call them dinosaurs, that we used to have. So we're still in the same world. So it just sounds like this is great. I absolutely love it. Now you don't have to worry about the bond fluctuations going up and down depending on your age. But in reality, I do think that there's not going to be enough education on this. And the young people who should not probably be in that 6% bucket should really be more focused on the investment strategy. But because of all the noise and all the market crashes that we've had in the world, it's going to pull more money out of the market, put more into this fixed bucket. And it's going to be a little bit of a shockwave in the stock market when the young people need to be invested. It's okay if they're 100% in equities Vogel's right over at Vanguard. You close your eyes, contribute. When the market goes down, you keep contributing every 2 weeks because you're buying those stocks and those funds at a lower price. Even if the market goes down for 33 months, like it did in 2000 or in 2007, the market went down for 18 months. That is a wealth building time period for young people specifically. That's when you just jump as much as you can, as long as you still have your job. So the jury's still out, but I do like it because if it gives an option for people nearing retirement, especially that 10 years before it, I love it, by the way.
So the whole idea, I remember back in the 70s when I started working and I saw people who, took jobs with a railroad or I remember had a friend who worked for the post office and he's going to get a pension. And I thought, well, I'm not going to have that in my life. But then they came up with a 401k and I thought, okay, this is the thing. So now we baby boomers are using our 401ks and we're finding, doesn't create that paycheck that we wanted. But you know what? You were just talking about 1978 when Ted Bennett invented the 401k. He's still around and he's still making comment about his invention and he's still trying to tweak it a little bit. He was in a movie called The Baby Boomer Dilemma and he said, you know what? This is where the 401k comes up short. This is the one thing that we didn't think about or we didn't build in. And now it really is up to you.
Most people who are retiring today, where their retirement savings are 401k and IRAs, should seriously consider committing maybe half or more of that money to a monthly fixed income guaranteed life income annuity. Because managing your investments today to provide a stream of income for 20, 30 years during retirement is a major challenge. And, that's one way that you can at least lock up into some guaranteed fixed income. It's the most secure way.
Again, this is the guy who invented the 401k. He said, here's where it comes up short. So now it's up to you. Save, save, save. But when you get toward retirement, it's time to figure out how this becomes a paycheck. And Sharice, this is that income component that a lot of us don't know what to do, and we kind of need you to guide us through all of that.
Yes. So I remember reading about this guy years and years ago, right, when I was in college. And it's interesting that he's part of this Boomer Dilemma movie, and he's actually saying this. And I think because he probably deep down inside knows that there's something about that income stream that you get for life, right? That they know, okay, I don't have to run to my TV to see where the stock market is because I get my paychecks over here. The stuff that's being bobbly and jiggly in the stock market doing the roller coaster ride, we know that's for the long term. We're not going to need that for 10 years because we have a nice fixed income. So there is value to that. But I'll be honest with you, Randy. maybe about only 50% of the people that walk into our office do we even recommend doing an income annuity. Because if you have a Social Security check and you have savings and you paid off your debt, what we find out is that we don't necessarily need that income annuity to get that guaranteed income forever and ever and ever, because based on the math and a very pessimistic, like 3% return, people aren't going to run out of money, right? Because when you do get an income annuity, believe it or not, if you live long enough, there's not much money that goes to the beneficiaries. So when you have a regular pension with your employer and you take your income for life, there's nothing going to your kiddos thereafter, right? Right. And if you did, hey, I'm going to do joint with my spouse for life and she gets 100%, if I pass away, then that's the way to do it. But when you get an income annuity in the private world, let's say you come to us here at Zinnia and we do that income, you're paying a fee for the income rider. For some people, it actually makes absolute sense. And it's a way to get more income in the future. But what happens is it depends on what your legacy goals are. So you're either going to live on more income now and potentially give less later to your beneficiaries, or you can do another strategy. If you don't need that buttoned up income as tightly as some others, then we would go with maybe a fixed annuity that's guaranteeing 6% for 10 years instead of doing an income. So you guys, I know this is very confusing what we're talking about, and there's good annuities and there's bad annuities out there, and not all annuities are created equal, and not everybody who comes in our office actually needs them. So you do need to know that. They're just a great piece to add to your balanced portfolio. But I will tell you that when you have these 401ks and you retire, I'm telling you, people don't retire because they don't know what to do with their money. They don't feel like they've saved enough, Randy. They don't know how to do that withdrawal strategy. That is one of the big ones. People's like, Sharice, you're right. I don't know the withdrawal strategy. I don't know what buckets to pull from first. And they're like, quite frankly, I only have 2 buckets. I got my bank account and I got the 60-40. So where are the other buckets you keep talking about, right? And so that's when we have those conversations, because there are lots of investment buckets out there, and we want to tune into those and live on them at certain time periods in our lives. So we want to be careful, what type of investments you get into. But the number one goal is, let's make sure we cover all of your bills. If your Social Security check is not enough to cover all your bills, then we might say, well, why don't we get a small income annuity that's going to cover the rest of your bills, and then the rest of the other dollars you have saved, hey, we'll leave that on the market and we'll do the roller coaster, or we'll do something else safe, right? So again, it's not cookie cutter. Not everybody is the same when they come in here. It just depends, how much income do you need? How much do you want to spend? Did you know you could spend more if you applied some of these strategies? So again, 401ks, they don't give you an income for life. And I do like what we talked about just a few minutes ago, Randy, about how they are giving people a fixed rate bucket, but still not a guaranteed income for life. And the only thing I don't like about it is that, didn't he say that there's no match in that fixed bucket?
Well, they were taking the match and they were using that to put in the fixed bucket. So they were.
That's interesting. I don't like that.
Okay.
Because if you're putting 3 and then you're putting 3 into your retirement account and they're matching 3, well, really, I mean, what are they doing? They're only giving you 3. Wouldn't it be better just to get your 3% match and put it in the market if you're younger? So for the younger people in the different seasons of life you're in, yes, I think the tone should be adjusted on strategy, but nearing retirement, I am okay with that.
Well, you brought up a great point, and I want to reiterate that, and that is, we look at that balance in our 401k, and let's just say it's $1 million when you get to your retirement, and everybody asks, is this going to be enough? And when you look at that number, you just don't know. But if somebody looked at you and says, we've got you $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month for the rest of your life, that's a little easier to wrap your arms around. So that's kind of the number that we're looking for. We want to have that monthly number, not that great big number. And to figure out what that monthly number is and what it needs to be, that's what happens at a meeting with Sharice. And we do that for you at no charge. If you'd like to set one of those meetings up, and we'll go through all that, do the math on your retirement, as we like to say, go to our website, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. Click on the gold box that says complimentary retirement consultation. We'll ask you to put in a little information there, and our team will reach out to you. Or you can reach out to us right now, 833-368-3680. It's 833-368-3680. 833-3680. A couple of weeks ago, Sharice and I talked about Dave Ramsey and how he had come out and says you can take 8% of your retirement money, and the whole world, the financial world, was going, has Dave off his rocker? And we talked a little bit about that. Well, I've got another eye-popping number for you, and it comes from Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. He says this is how much you need to save for retirement. It's a big number, and we'll talk through it. Coming up next on Retirement Coffee Talk. And welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, it's zinniawealth.com, or give us a call. If it's time to talk about your retirement, give us a call, 833-368-3680. Something else you can do to kind of get ready for retirement is sit with some people who are going through the same thing you are. They're just about there, or they're getting into retirement, and then having Sharice be your educator. Sit up there and talk through some of the questions that you might have. A couple of Zinnia U opportunities here in March on the 5th in the Villages in the morning and the afternoon. March the 6th in Ocala at the College of Central Florida. And then we have a couple more. You're going to be very busy in the month of March, Sharice. So a lot of people, I would imagine, are asking about markets and inflation and election years and taxes. It's the same stuff, but everybody wants to know, don't they?
I will tell you, they all want to know. Talking in our courses is a lot of fun for myself. And I really try to get everyone involved in asking questions about taxes and RMDs, who's doing this, who's doing that, fees and all different types of investments under the sun. Even a gentleman in the class recently said, you know, I am here today, Sharice, because I've watched YouTube too many times. And the last time I watched YouTube and watched the financial advisor say, this is what you should invest in, that was the last time I lost. And I moved my money to cash, and I decided I wanted to get educated and see what you're talking about when it comes to stock markets and all these things I need to know. And it was really nice because the whole class says, been there, done that. Not the whole class, but it was surprising how many people have gone on their own, listened to somebody on YouTube or maybe a robo-advisor, and yet never connected with them or didn't know how to again, and didn't tell them a strategy how to exit, right? So it was interesting. So we like to do deep dives like that. We love when people open up and share their concerns and questions they have out there. So it's a great class where we're talking about long-term care planning, estate planning, tax planning, Social Security, Medicare, you name it. So we do encourage people to come out, and we're doing them every month, so you cannot miss us.
Yep, got about 4 or 5 of them in the month of March. So check them out online. You can see our calendar there. Go to zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. You'll see events. Our calendar will open up there, and you can see all those opportunities there. All right, so everybody wants to know, how much do I need to save for retirement? Opinions are all over the map. Every year we do this show, it continues to go up. I remember 10 years ago, we were talking about $1 million, and now we're talking about $1.8 million and $1.9 million. Everything continues to go up. What Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary had a different opinion on his podcast. Take a listen to this number.
You have to get to a place where you have $5 million in the bank, because you can survive the rest of your life no matter what happens, and your family. You can take care of a lot of people making 6 or 7% of $5 million. When you make that, you have to set that aside and you don't risk it. Then after that, you can start to take risk capital and put it to work.
Hey-oh, $5 million. Woo, 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 woo.
Who is he talking to? I mean, seriously, is he talking, like, really? I have to find this recording somewhere, but who is he talking to?
He's talking to all those Wall Street people on CNBC and all of that.
Well, that's also our clients who are getting ready to retire.
Yeah, I know, but $5 million. How many people walk through your door with $5 million?
Not too many, Randy.
Okay. Are there a lot of people that are happy in retirement even though they don't have $5 million?
They are, Randy.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Kevin O'Leary, I really do like this guy. I really do. He's smart. He's intelligent. So I have to see what crowd he's talking to. But if it's a retiree that happened to tune into this and they're hearing that and they're like, Sharice, I only saved $500,000 or I only saved $1.5 million. That means I can't retire till I get to 5 million. What is he talking about? And he's also talking about taking care of all of my friends and family.
Right.
I'm really wondering who he's talking to. I'm like, who does that? I mean, we all help our friends and family, but to that level?
Yeah.
So it's a number. So it's noise. So don't listen to all the noise you hear, because he might be talking to a whole different group than just the retirees. It could be a bunch of private equity geeks over there, right?
It just makes me scared when people hear this kind of stuff, because they might not retire because they think, oh, I'll never get to 5 million. I got to keep working. And then you're 70 years old and you could have retired 5 years ago, and because you're listening to stuff like this.
Right. So don't let the noise stop you from retiring. We talk every week about doing the math to your retirement. So remember, when you hear, oh, I've got to have $1 million to retire, or oh, I got to have 2 million, or you hear this guy said 5 million, that is not necessarily true. How do you know until you've worked with a retirement planner that actually can do the math for you and help you sort out that strategy? And it's pretty simple for us because we do this on the daily, but let me give you some points to follow. So take your inventory. Do we have any liabilities? If we have liabilities, do we have to pay a mortgage? Do we have a car payment still? Do we have credit cards? If you don't have any of those because your goal was to be out of debt in retirement, well, that's half the battle. And then we got to just look at your savings. What did you save? Did you save in a 401k or a Roth IRA? Or did you buy some homes, or do you have a bunch of cash in the bank? Like, where did we save? And then what are our fixed incomes? So most people are getting Social Security checks. Do we have one Social Security check or two? Do we have two people in the house? Do we happen to have a pension from work? Does that come in? And then do we have cash rents from real estate investments? Do we have part-time wages? So this is what we talk about when it comes to taking inventory. And a lot of you can do this on your own before you come in and see us. And do the math, add it up, subtract it. Where do we stand? And then you can come in. We'll help you with the withdrawal strategy. But Randy, those commercials that you sent, Fidelity and Schwab had, oh, you got to have $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
We have retired people at 500 or 800,000, right? It depends how much you spend. And some people say, hey, I'm not going to do a whole lot, but I'm going to do a little bit more than I did when I retired. So we add that into the budget and we do the math and we pull out the income software. And we're like, okay, if that's what you're going to do, you're looking pretty good. Or, hey, if that's what you're going to do, you might need to work a couple more years. We're going to tell you. If you're somebody that says, Sharice, my go-go years, I want to make it count while I still have my health. In the next 10 years, I want to spend an extra 40 grand just on travel and family. Okay, let's see what you have saved. Let's do the math. Let's put it in the income plan. Then you can see it. You just don't have to hear me tell you about it. You can see the math for yourself, and then you can make your own prudent decisions.
I think, when he said $5 million, my eyes popped onto my head like Roger Rabbit or something, like a cartoon character. Mm-hmm. But after you get over that, the one thing that he says in there, what I found interesting, he goes, get $5 million. Well, thanks. Okay, get $5 million and then set it aside at 6% interest and make it pay you. Now, that I can wrap my arms around. It's not $5 million, but whatever it is that you saved is now you become the bank in retirement. You make somebody pay you. And that's a concept, Sharice, that get yourself your 401k or your bulk, your nest egg there, and make it pay you. And that's what we've been talking about for the whole show today.
The goal is if you can get your money to pay you and still have it grow, that is the prettiest picture in retirement, right? So how do you do that? Well, Kevin O'Leary said 5 or 6%. I want to pull 5% from my portfolio, but I also want to put it in this high savings rate of 6%. So we're living off 5, we're making 6. Our account is going up. Mm-hmm. And you can do that right now. Right now, we're in a good time period where there's, 10-year options where you can get a guarantee of 6%. I don't know how long it's going to last, but once you're in, you're in. And it's just a good time to pay yourself with all the noise, with all the interest rate adjustments right now, and the ever changes you're going to see over the next 10 years. So pay yourself. Let's get these portfolios to grow, but let's just make sure if you need $500,000 of maybe the $1 million you saved over the next 10 years, we make sure we follow Kevin O'Leary's strategy. let that pay you, and then the other money, let that invest. And then hopefully those dollars were double. And then you get to do it again for the next 10 years, right?
Yep.
If that is the scenario.
Just chop off some of those zeros, forget about that part of the conversation, and let's use that strategy. It seems like a good move to me. Give us a call and let's talk through it. Let's make your money pay you. What does the paycheck look like? You've saved this money in your 401k. You've done a great job at that. Now, let's make that money pay you. Find out how to do that by giving Sharice a call. 833-368-3680, 833-368-3680, or find us on our website, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. We're going to take a break. We are hearing from a lot of celebrities today. We heard from Kevin O'Leary. We're going to hear from Tom Selleck. We're going to get some retirement advice there. That's coming up in our next segment here on Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, find us at zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. And we also have a podcast as well under the same name. You can find us on all your favorite podcast platforms. All right, so Tom Selleck, happy birthday to Tom Selleck. He just turned 79 years old.
Oh, wow.
And he is now wrapping up his 14th and final season of Blue Bloods, which is one of the shows we watch at our house every single week. Now, you remember the show that started it all for him. You remember Magnum P.I. Did you watch that?
Oh my gosh. I remember in elementary and middle school with my dad, be sitting right in front of the TV. I can hear him say, "Don't sit too close, you're going to go blind." But we watched that show every week.
Yep.
And he had the two Dobermans, right?
That was Higgins' dogs. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Uh-huh.
And I always remember short shorts. He always had these short shorts. I don't know why, but I love the show. And probably why I like investigating things.
That could be. That could be. Well, it's interesting that when the part was originally offered to Tom Selleck, he didn't want to do Magnum P.I. And here he was in an interview explaining why.
Saying no to Universal assigning Magnum to me was a big risk because I'd never been on the air. And they said, "Who the hell do you think you are?" I said, "Nobody, but I don't want to do this. The guy's too perfect." And they somehow caved in and did a lot of rewriting, and this kind of imperfect private investigator that I love playing came about. I think the acting business is about risk. Good parts should scare you. Risk. It is the price you pay for opportunity.
Interesting that he didn't want to do it. They rewrote it, and he said, okay. He's got some flaws. Now I can do it. That's kind of interesting. But what he said there at the end, he said, risk means opportunity, and you should take some risk. And so that's an area that we talk about a lot here on the show is risk. And Sharice, there's risk in the market for sure, and we talk a lot about that. But there are other risks that people can take or that they ignore, and it puts them at risk. What are some of the things that you see as somebody walks through your door and you say, okay, you didn't do this, or you're here, and all of these things here are putting your retirement at risk? What might that list look like?
Yeah, I mean, I can think of quite a few because I just see them all the time. Some people, number one, retiring too early.
Okay.
I will say, we like to retire people early, but we have to do the math on it. But if somebody retires too early and they haven't done the math and they just like, hey, I'm going to retire, it could be a huge hazard for the future. And people who decide midway through retirement to buy a home, and then they can put a down payment, and they take money out of their retirement account to put that down payment. Then they need to buy the furniture. Things like that come up. And then we spend a lot more than we really should have too early. It could really derail a retirement plan. So you got to be careful not to retire too early. And if you are, make sure you see the math and you understand it. So you know what your limitations are. So that's number one. Number two, taking Social Security too early. I will say that is a huge piece. A lot of people come into us, Randy, and they have already taken Social Security. And I'll kind of do the math, and I'll keep it to myself half the time because it's too late for most people. But if they just would have waited, like one person would have waited 2 years and the other person would have waited 3 years, it would have brought so much more money to the table just by waiting, especially if they had the cash flow to live on it for a couple of years, just to bring in a never-ending income stream in case you did live 30 to 40 years in retirement. So we want to make sure that the Social Security strategy that you take, you put it in the income plan and you see that strategy working, whether you take it at 62 and then we can play around with it, taking it at 67. And hey, one of you might say, hey, I want to wait till age 70, Sharice, because I'm working, I don't need it. So, and I believe I'm going to live to, 85 years old or 90 years old. So we want to play around to make sure we're sure, because it can be a big hazard if we collect too early, right? So that's number 2. Mm-hmm. Number 3, not paying attention to taxes.
Okay.
We talk about the tax man all the time. We find people that just start living off their retirement accounts now, or they're living off their Roth IRA now, or they're just living off their brokerage account now. So depending on the scenario, what we come in and do is we evaluate and look at the tax scenario. Like, are we really pulling from the right account? Should we really be living off our Roth IRA right now? Or should we really be living off our traditional IRA right now? Why taxes are likely going to be lower than in the future. So rethinking that strategy. Sometimes we see people living on cash at the bank, yet they haven't considered, well, if your taxes are super low and you're living on cash at the bank because you want your IRAs and Roth IRAs and brokerage accounts to grow, why aren't we at least rolling some of our IRAs and doing a conversion over a Roth IRA, since we could do it potentially at paying 0 taxes, or we could limit how much we're paying in taxes since we're living off the cash. So there's so many conversations there that we go through when we're walking people down this path and getting them ready to retire. And if they're in retirement, how do we adjust and make some changes in the interim, right? So taxes. There's no plan without the tax plan. I truly just cannot hone in on that enough. And then here's a big one. And I know everybody's going to know what I'm about to say. Not paying attention to fees in your portfolio. Randy, do you know how many people walk into my office and they have variable annuities and they have only mutual funds in their portfolio? Do you know how many? I mean, I know we talk about it.
That's where a lot of people have their money?
Yes. The highest percentage of people, that's where they have their money sitting today. And this is why we teach and we do retirement education in these classes and on this radio show. Because why does Zinnia Wealth not offer mutual funds? Why are we not offering variable annuities? Listen, everybody has their own show and they all love their own investments when you're a financial advisor. But there's a reason why we started using exchange traded funds and index funds and more stocks. We got rid of the mutual funds, and this is because they're heavy in fees and the capital gain fees, and some of them have the commissions inside. And if we're in retirement specifically, we got to figure out how to keep our fees down. And being in a mutual fund is certainly not keeping a fee down on average, right? So we're going to educate you on where are the fees lower, can we make just as much money there, and make sure we're not fighting against fees for the next 30 to 40 years in retirement. You've been doing this your whole life. Let's get them down.
Gotcha.
And then I will also say number 5 would be not having the correct legal documents in place. I'm going to tell you many, many times than not, a lot of folks go through this thing called probate. Probate is one of your worst nightmares. This is something you do not ever want to go through. I would fear that. The fear is a factor there if we don't have our documents in place, right? And it's called operation of law, beneficiary designations, wills, trusts, those types of things, because we try as advisors and the individual person out there is also trying to make the right decisions. But the one thing we forget the most is the ultimate distribution of the estate, because we're so worried about running out of money or lowering our fees in the tax plan, that the ultimate distribution of your estate can be a huge cost on your beneficiaries if you don't have the proper titling and deeding. Not everybody needs that trust. We do love trust, but do we have a will, a healthcare surrogate, a power of attorney? Do we have a DNR? How do we even do those things? Do I need an irrevocable trust, or a revocable trust, right? And we're going to, send you to our attorneys to give you what you need, but we're just going to kind of give you an overlay of this is what certain people need for certain situations. but we really want you to, full disclosure, go talk to our attorneys. And they will do a free consultation, which is very important to make sure that you are set up. And if you already have a will and a trust and you haven't updated it in 10 years, and go see our attorneys, our estate attorneys, so to make sure it gets up to date, because things change over time. Make sure you understand these steps. And if you don't, then come see us, come to our classes. That's why we do them. We can help at least educate you and get you going.
Well, one of the things that we want to do in a meeting like this is to have Sharice point out what the mistakes are and try to stay away from them. Some of you have probably seen people make these mistakes, and you're making mental notes. Retiring too early, taking Social Security too early, not paying attention to taxes, not paying attention to fees, not having the correct legal documents in place. All of these things are things that you can sit down and talk through with Sharice so we can try to avoid these mistakes in our retirement years. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website. We'll talk through it all together. 833-368-3680 is our number. Or you can find our website, which is zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com, and click on that gold box that says Complimentary Retirement Consultation, and you'll be on your way. Well, Sharice talked a lot about taxes there, and I want to continue that conversation a little bit because taxes can be kind of confusing. And one of the interesting parts about it is that, you know, when we watch financial news now, it's like you kind of look at it. Now, we've talked about this. You should look at it kind of with your eyebrows up and go, I wonder if this information is for me. Sometimes we get some of the really good information in our life from comedians, you know, I mean, Jon Stewart and people like that. We now trust them more than we trust the people on the nightly news. It's pretty interesting because they kind of give us the straight scoop. This is a comedian. His name is Joe Zimmerman, and he's talking about taxes and how weird it is in this country.
I worry about it all year long because other countries, the government will tell you what you owe and then you just have to pay it. Here, the government's like, okay, what do you think you owe us? I have no idea. Just tell me. Nope, you got to add it up. Well, I'm really unorganized. What happens if I add it up wrong? You could go to jail. Oh,
my. That is funny.
It's so true. It's all up to us. And we got to figure there's 100,000 pages or more in that tax code, and they expect us to know all that. And many times we need to bring somebody in to help us navigate through all of that and see what's applicable to us and what we can use in the tax code. Sharice, you talked about misses in taxes and not paying attention to taxes. When somebody comes in, for instance, and all their money is in a 401k, that means all their money is in tax deferred. That means every time you take money out, you got to pay the government to get it. It's like going through a toll booth. So talk to me about some of the misses that people don't know about, mistakes that they make because they're not paying attention to taxes.
Some of the biggest misses that people have when it comes to taxes is they have this standard deduction. The standard deduction's bigger than it's ever been, right? And not everybody out there, Randy, is actually using the full standard deductions. Okay. So, for example, I'll do quick math. Let's say standard deductions are $27,000 and you use $22,000 of it. Well, what about the other $5,000? Like, they don't give that back to you guys. So why don't you just move money from your IRA to cover that $5,000? And now you have an IRA that's converting over to a Roth IRA. And now you used your entire standard deduction and you didn't pay any taxes on that conversion. How about that? That is one I see quite often. And so people are probably thinking right now, oh gosh, do I even use my standard deduction? I have no clue. So talk to your accountants, your CPAs. If you're doing TurboTax, you can find that in there. You'll be able to find that right in TurboTax. Come in and see us. We'll help you find those numbers out. So that's one big one. The other one is people just aren't at all converting IRAs over to a Roth IRA when taxes are on sale. What I mean by taxes are on sale, December 31st, 2025 is the last day we're going to be at these tax rates, right? And I don't think anybody in the world thinks taxes are going down, right? So why aren't we saying, while taxes are down and on sale, why don't we start rolling some of our IRAs before we hit that next tax bracket to get it over to a Roth IRA? And remember, a traditional IRA and 401k, it's 100% taxable. All that you put in, all the match, and all the growth. By moving the money to a Roth IRA, all the growth is now tax-free, right? And that principal you put in there because you pay the taxes that year to do that. So why won't we have another bucket of money that's tax-free in the future that you don't have to tap into if you don't want to? You can pass it on tax-free, or you can live on it tax-free as long as you've had it for 5 years, right? So don't be afraid of the idea of these Roth conversions. Just let's do the math to find out if it makes sense for you, depending on what your wishes and your goals are and what your needs are. And your CPAs can actually help you do that, because we will want to look at the tax statements, and we will be asking our CPAs and your CPAs, how much can we do, et cetera, to make sure that you're within range, you know what it's going to cost you. So that Roth IRA conversion is a big miss, and people should be considering it now.
One of the things that you talk about regularly around tax time, which is what we're all thinking about right now, is the idea of tax loss harvesting. So last year was a pretty good year in the market, so you probably had some gains. But as you look at your holdings, you might have some that had some losses. And Sharice, you can even those out, and that can help you tax-wise.
It really can. So I loved tax loss harvesting. When I heard about it years ago, I'm like, why aren't we doing it? So we started doing it. And it's those dollars in your brokerage account, the non-IRAs, the non-Roth IRAs. It's those brokerage accounts that have been growing in stocks or maybe bonds, or maybe there's cash in there. You're going to have some winners every year, and you're typically going to have some losers every year. And if you need income, there is a way to sell some of the winners and some of the losers to offset all the taxes so that you don't pay any taxes to do it. You can't do it every time, but I'm going to say a lot of times, more times than not, we've done that for our clients. And it's just a great strategy, even if you aren't living on those dollars. What if you feel like, Sharice, I have so much money at risk, or I have too much money in bonds safe, and you're trying to get out of those buckets, right? You're trying to get out of those overexposed dollars. Well, you could use tax loss harvesting, sell some of the winners, some of the losers, and get them over to maybe a safer category if you feel like you're taking too much risk, right? So those are some strategies you can employ just to lower your risk exposure to the stock market. A lot of people who are rolling IRAs over to a Roth, they say, well, I still need income, Sharice, or hey, Sharice, I need to pay the tax bill for rolling this IRA over to a traditional Roth. How do I do that? Then if you happen to have those brokerage accounts, we're going to see if we can do some tax loss harvesting so you don't pay taxes on that, so that those dollars we can pull to pay the tax bill. So again, we do tax strategies. Your accountants do the QuickBooks and the inventory and just making sure you're paying your taxes, et cetera. So we do that next phase of planning, which we truly, truly do enjoy.
So a great point that if you have an accountant, they're people who are historians. They're looking back at what you did. You sit down with Sharice, you sit down with a tax planner, you sit down with a CPA, you sit down with people who are working on your retirement plan together. We're looking forward. We're looking, saying, what is your tax liability in the future, and how can we work on that? That's a whole different conversation, and we would love to have that conversation with you. Give us a look online, which is zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. You'll see a gold box there for the complimentary retirement consultation. Click on that. We'll ask you to put a little information in there, and you'll be on your way. Or give us a call at 833-368-3680. Well, we've talked a lot today on the show about 401ks, and we've talked about trying to figure out what you're going to get per month out of that 401k. Well, what if you figure that out? And then you say, well, that's going to get me $3,000, and I'm going to get $3,000 from Social Security. That's $6,000, but my bills are $7,000. What do we do about that? How do we fill the gap? We'll talk about it coming up next on Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, find us at zinniawealth.com. While you're there, click on the calendar, the event tab there, and you can see that in the month of March, busy, busy, busy. Sharice has like 5 opportunities for you to take in a little education at Zinnia U. You'll see all of those places. You'll see all of those dates. This is an opportunity for you to sit down and ask your questions about what you're in for. If you're a couple of years from retirement, right on the edge of retirement, even if you're in retirement, we've got some information for you that may be able to help. Take a look online. These classes are all at no charge. All right, so there's a lot of gaps that we have to fill in retirement. If you wanted to retire at 62, but you're not going to get to Medicare until 65, there's a gap there. You have to figure that out. If you want to take your Social Security at 62, but you find you need more income, there's a gap there. We have to fill that gap. So, Cherise, talk to me about you and your role as filling the gap. What are the places that we look for more money? How do we do that?
Under the mattress, Randy, in between the couches where the popcorn's at.
I gotcha. Dig through all that stuff, huh?
You'd be shocked what you find in there. My daughter just said, I found $5 in the washer. And
Nice.
Like, were my clothes in there? Yeah, she's like, it's mine. I'm like, no, that's mine.
Hey,
that's my gap money.
If she's doing the laundry, she should get something for that, right?
I don't think she did it. She was doing her own. She's pretty good at that.
All right.
But let's get back on track about filling the gap. So if you want to retire and you're 62, Medicare doesn't kick into 65. So if you retire, we don't have insurance unless it's carryover for some reason. So that, by the way, Randy, is one of the number one reasons why people don't retire at 62 when they could, because they fear like, oh, I don't have insurance. Now I got to go pay, $800 to $1,000 a month for the next 3 years. And I have like this internal chuckle. It's okay. If you have to pay $800 a month for the next 3 years, it's okay. Let's figure out what your budget is, where the money's come from. Have you saved enough? And if you have, it's really not that big of a deal. And there's different types of plans out there that can even lower your costs. But if you need to cover that gap from 62 to 65 and your insurance is $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year. And in 3 years, it goes away. There are only a few ways to do that. We have to pull more money out of your bank account to do it. We have to pull it out of your investments. So when you come in and we do the math for you and we build out that income plan, we're going to show you, okay, you retire at 62. Here's your Social Security if you're going to collect it. And for the next 3 years, we need $1,000 a month. And after 3 years falls off, now we're only going to need $300 a month for maybe Medicare and the supplements. And we do that. We also put in all of their assets in different buckets where they saved it with different rates of returns and with an inflation adjusted income on top of that. Once we do this, if for some reason that 3-year gap is really going to hurt you, you're going to see it and you're going to say, oh, I might need to work another year or two, or maybe I have to work till 65 to save those dollars instead of spending it. And you get to make that decision. So don't fear it. Just come in and let's do the math or do your written income plan. And let's make sure you can do it and it does not derail your retirement later, right? And then the other one here says, hey, Charisse, taking Social Security payments at 62, that is just not enough. So I'll give you an example. I had somebody come in between husband and wife. They had about $50,000 in Social Security coming in, but they needed 90. So there was that gap. And they needed 90 to do a little travel, but also to pay some of the other stuff they still had when it came to debt for the next 20 years. So they had saved $1 million. And so we put that $1 million into 5 buckets and we worked the strategy out on when to take that withdrawal from different buckets, when to turn this bucket off and when to turn this one on. So the other one grew. And it also depends on the climate that we are living in each and every year, because that could change. But covering that gap is easy if you've saved some money, right? If you haven't saved enough money, it's going to be a harder story. Therefore, we might have to tell you, hey, we got to work a little bit longer. But we talked earlier about income checks and guaranteed incomes. You very well might be that person that says, okay, I saved $1 million. I need another 40,000. And then I actually need a couple bucks more for the next 10 years. We might build up a plan to where we put in one of those income structures where you're getting that guaranteed income for life, because a lot of times when you put your dollars into those, you can get a higher income than just investing it at the bank or just investing it in the stock market. And it's a guaranteed income. So sometimes those guaranteed income strategies fill those gaps, not just for now, but actually for life. And it takes pressure off the dollars that might be in the stock market or somewhere else. So you can allow those things to bloom and grow, right? I will tell you, there's a lot of directions you can go to fill gaps. Just make sure that when you're filling that gap, those dollars are not in the stock market, because those short-term gaps, you don't want the jiggle and the wobble of the stock markets. We want to make sure they're at least fixed and guaranteed, or a little bit part of that more conservative strategy.
Well, we say it every single show, and there's a reason for it. Let's do the math on your retirement. Is there going to be a gap there? You ask yourself, did I save enough? Did I do enough? There's one way to find out, and that's to do the math on your retirement. We'll do that for you at no charge. It's a complimentary retirement consultation. If you go to our website, it's zinniawealth.com. The gold box is right there. Click on it. You'll be on your way. We'll ask you a little bit of information there, and our team will reach out to you. Or you can call us right now at 833-368-3680. Sharice, that is all the time we have on the show for today. I'll give you the last word on this one.
All right. Thanks so much, Randy. What a fun show. You all go to our podcast on Google, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, you name it. Get to know us there if you missed anything. And also, if you're going to our website, there's some market confusion out there. There's a company that has Zinnia.com. That is not us. We are ZinniaWealth.com. So as you're searching our name in the future, if it's not months down the road, remember, we are ZinniaWealth.com, not Zinnia.com. Again, thank you all for tuning in each and every week. Live by design and not by default. And we will see you here next week.
This has been Retirement Coffee Talk. To find out more about how the strategies we discussed on this program can build the retirement you've been wanting, call Zinnia Wealth at 352-368-3680 or visit us online at ZinniaWealth.com.
Sharice Rivers is an investment advisor representative of Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Sharice Rivers is licensed in your state, please contact their office. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Any client experiences discussed during this show are unique to that client. They are not meant to imply or suggest you will experience the same results. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Sharice Rivers, NPN Insurance License Number 8718011.